Hey everyone, this is WobblyWallaby. The poison meta is so hot right now, but it can be pretty complicated to understand. In this video, I'll discuss some important details about the poison meta so you know whether it's worth investing in it or not. Also, you'll know what situations to use it and some damage tests to back it up. Stay tuned for all the details. First, Orissamr had an excellent video on the mechanics, including discussing the code. Be sure to check out this video if you want the details. I'll put a link to her video in the description. But how does the poison meta work exactly? I'll go over some background because the MVP control mechanic is confusing. In the Traveler notes, I go to the sheet of abnormal elements and click the help icon. The note about the control resist bar showing under the monster is no longer valid. You won't see this, but when the monster does hit max, you'll have the no control icon and you'll have to wait. It's unfortunate that the devs did not update the documentation. In my old video, you can see the control bar showing up here, but this no longer is valid. Nowadays, for example, if I face Zanubia and use the stun tail, you won't see a status bar, but you will see her as being stunned. Oftentimes, MVPs will have no control, so you can't use hard control on them anyways, like stun, freeze, sleep, and more. For example, out here in the wild, this cat has a no control all the time. There was a patch in December 2023 that made poison and burn possible against bosses even if they have no control. That means skills that get damage bonuses due to being burned or poisoned actually take effect now. An important note is that only bosses in the open fields, including Void, Secret Realm of Phantom, Chaotic Invasion, White Star Airship, and Niflheim are affected. Field MVPs tend to get melted away already, so it's less important for that. The only instance that is considered difficult these days is White Star Airship, and this is why the poison meta has become so important, especially for whales. Ronin is currently one of the top DPS in the game and dominates in White Star Airship, so how does poison affect this class? One of the most confusing mechanics proven via the code in Orissamr's video is how poison can take precedence over burn. At first, I was confused as I thought both could exist at the same time. You can see that this beetle is taking both burn and poison damage. Synoptic explained it quite well. He said no, mob or MVP will have both statuses, that's not the problem. The problem is there are two variables, final damage and state damage. Different items give damage bonuses if the target has poisoning or burning. And when it is counted in final damage, all bonuses are added up, but when it goes to state damage, the first matching condition is chosen and all others are ignored, and poison is the first. As I wrote above, it's worth separating which effects use final damage like Chimera card, and which uses state damage like Poison Tail. My guildmate TooTough also explained it to me in another way that made lots of sense. The Poison Tail's damage will trigger another damage formula, which will always prioritize damage to poison targets effect first, and it will overwrite any damage to burn, bleeding, or other abnormal status. He had translated a TapTap article, and I'll put a link in the description too. Now if you need BCC to roll for poison meta cards, then try Smile.1. Smile.1 allows you to get discounted BCC and premiums for Ragnarok Mobile. You can see the discounted prices here, and then at the bottom a wide variety of payment methods for lots of flexibility. Smile.1 has been around for more than 8 years and have lots of global business partners for other games too. Click the link in the description to begin saving today. Thanks to Smile.1 for sponsoring this video. So, what happens if Ronin loses out on the damage that comes from burning? It does depend. First, they lose the status vulnerability skill, which gives 34% more damage to enemies that are burning. Then it depends on their second line for the Berserk Breath Ruin, which I would lose 22.4% damage to enemies in burn status. It's no joke, it is a huge loss. So even as a free-to-play player, if you plan to use any skills that would poison a target or get the Flower Demon Valley Lily Tail, make sure you ask Ronins in your party if you should poison your target. However, even the Ronins can take advantage of the burn damage if poison is active. It is possible to do more damage if you have the increasing damaging cards. For example, the Chimera Star card and the Lord of Death card are popular and can be added without changing the build too much. I will show some damage tests later on to show you the impact of these two cards that add final damage. In addition, the Ninja card is also popular. There's also another card called the Cross Executioner card, but I haven't seen that being used much. I think 10% just isn't high enough, whereas 20% damage for the offhand is. You can get these class cards from the Spinning Gacha. The Job Card Self-Select gift box has a 0.05% pull rate. On my beta account, I was able to get it from the Spinning Gacha for about 1050 BCC. It's definitely not cheap. The devs also seem to be pushing the poison meta since the Lord of Death and the Chimera card are both in the rate up section of the card gacha. So at what point is it great for Ronins to use the poison meta? I'll answer this question with some damage tests. On the beta account, I have an unoptimized Ronin with 64% depot, so I can hit bosses for multiple hits to show the damage. I also leave my advanced ruins fairly empty, so the damage is more consistent. Indeed, there is no effect from the Berserk Breath Ruin, but the second line varies a lot for people anyways. First, let's do a test with no tail. After Free is burning, I hit for 38.5 million, then goes down slightly to 37.6 million. Next, I switch to Flower Demon Valley Lily. At the first hit, it is poisoned and I hit for 34.7 million until it dies. This was a big drop. If you're a Ronin who doesn't have poison damaging cards, then you can see how losing burning for poison really sucks. Next, I'll equip some poison cards. I first equip Lord of Death. I also have one deposited too. Then I deposit Chimera Star card. I also have another one deposited. The damage after being poisoned is 42.4 million. What I'm trying to show here is that Ronins can potentially use poison with enough good poison damaging cards. Just ask if you can poison the target or not. Next, I'll do some damage tests with Rathgricy, which is extremely popular in the meta and doesn't have any downsides to using poison damage like Ronin does. In these damage tests, I'll also be taking Ignore Defense into account and using more meta cards for comparison. Here's my gear overview for my Rathgricy. I'm purposely using a very high Ignore Defense because when you remove the Minoris card, you're no longer able to activate the Insight effect. If you have good morale and chance, or you're able to get damage to large monster headwear like Tella Baby, or have your armor have the plus 20% damage to large monster random attribute, then you can certainly use those. I just don't have that on my account. This setup has the Poitata Star card, Alice Star card, and the Drake Star card combo. It's one of the strongest combos in PvE. For all these tests, my gachas are clean and have no enchants. I first hit for 4.97 million damage. Next, I add Flower Demon Valley Lily and add the Chimera Star card. I don't have one deposited yet. I now hit for 4.92 million damage, slightly lower than before. Next, I'll use the Lord of Death card in my weapon. I show that even though Insight no longer works, I still have 200.9% Ignore Defense, which is fine versus these bosses. I hit for 4.9 million damage, so at least for my character, with just Lord of Death, it did worse than my Minoris Star card. Next, I deposit another Lord of Death card to get the 5% more final damage. Now I hit for 5.07 million damage, so now it beats the Minoris Star card for this character. Next, I swap out Alice Star card for the Ninja card. I hit for 5.09 million damage, which is slightly higher. Then finally, I deposit another Chimera Star card. I hit for 5.24 million damage, so with everything added, this character can do much more damage with the poison meta gear. If you don't have all the pieces, you might be sad that your damage isn't as high as before, so please be careful. My friend Built to Kill has switched over to the poison meta for his Rathgricy. One of the biggest reasons is that the Chimera Star card works very well with the Relic Era Fire Seed. If you use this relic, you cannot use the TooTough star card. So if you do have this relic and you have the poison meta, you'll definitely have some incredible damage, and this is something to strive for late game. Personally, am I going to buy the poison meta cards? I use Ronin as my main right now, and I have 0 pieces of the poison meta besides the Flower Demon Valley Lily. So to get past the burn damage, it will be tough. Most of the instances I help carry in, the bosses also can't be poisoned or burned either, so it doesn't affect me much. I have been spending BCC to buy the White Star Airship materials instead. That value is much more guaranteed than me trying to roll for these cards in the Cardiacha or the Spin Machine. Are you going to invest in the poison meta? Let me know in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Here's a video that I would recommend, and if you want more videos on the meta, check out this playlist over here.